brought out the crowd today. We got like the Presidente over here. This is big time. I'm really grateful to be here, and this is such a cool honor. I was just over at Cafe Rio with some friends, and I was telling them about Slick, and I said it's been such a great experience because I'm on the board of trustees now, and it's been such an eye-opener to what this place does and how much cool stuff I didn't know about that happens here. That it's really where the rubber hits the road in terms of so many. We did a campus tour a few months ago, and I was just so impressed with all the things that I don't think the community totally understands that Slick does and teaches and trains on and all that. So fun to be involved out here. As was mentioned by Whitney, I'm with the Boyer Company. My name is Nate Boyer. I'm a little bit about myself. I'm one of 8 children. My dad started the company back in almost 50 years ago, and my brother and I run the company. My brother's in Frankfurt, Germany on a Latter-day Saint mission, and he'll be coming back in about 5 months from there. He's got 4 kids over there with him. So my dad is almost 80 years old. He still comes to the office. And just, I think when you start something, you just don't ever really want to hang it up. I mean, he still has a great retirement, but he enjoys coming to the office every day and has great insight. So I enjoy working with him. That's something I'll always treasure. I think just, when he's gone, is just good memories of being together and learning from him. So a little bit about where my career path has taken me. As was mentioned, I went to East High, then I went to the University of Utah, and after that I went on a LDS mission, and then I went down to BYU. And I kind of always knew I wanted to get into real estate because I grew up in a real estate family, and it's sort of a generational business because a lot of real estate, you make money the slow way, right? So it's just build a building and then try to pay off the mortgage and cash flow a little bit along the way, and hopefully at the end of once you've paid off a loan on each property, you have some value there. So it's oftentimes you see, parent and child taking over, the parent's business that they might have started. So it's a very generational business, and you look at New York and you see that in spades, right? You see the Durst and some of these old families that have owned real estate forever there, and it's so that made sense for me, and I always kind of knew I would go into it. And then after BYU, I worked for a few years, and then I went out to MIT and got a 1-year Master's of Real Estate Development and degree, and that was really eye-opening, great opportunity. I applied to Columbia, MIT, and then USC, and people always ask me, well, why'd you choose MIT? And honestly, I think just for the brand and to put that on my, resume because I knew I was going to be coming back to the Boyer Company, but I thought, Boston, great place. It turned out I met my wife out in Boston, so that was a double whammy, and really a great benefit there. So we now have 4 boys and 1 daughter on the way here in the next 2 weeks. So then we'll be done 100%. So anyway, but it's a really fun business what we do every day. I really enjoy it, and I want this to be very casual. I want you guys to feel like you can ask any questions. Our business. I mean, as I've thought about what to say today, there isn't any rocket science to what I do. You have to know a little bit about everything, and so you have to kind of be a generalist, and you have to be dangerous enough to know a little bit about everything. So in real estate, and the thing I love about my job is that every time I wake up every morning, there's always a new set of problems. It's different every day. I don't go just sit at a desk. I'm on my feet. I'm at different meetings a lot, running around to different places, and that it does because you're always up against a city that doesn't want you to build something. So you're having to navigate a city council. So you've got kind of the politics there, or you've got right now where Utah's booming, you've got like cost overruns. So you're up against cost overruns because there's labor shortages, and we have a prison we're building, and we have an airport we're building, and Facebook's under construction. And so some of these things are just driving our industry crazy with costs, and it's hard to get new projects built on budget. So at a very fundamental level, what I do, because people always think that Boyer is a construction company, but it's not. We're a developer. So what we do is we go out and buy land, and then we entitle it, usually take it through like an approval process with the city, and then we bring on a general contractor and an architect to design a building, and a general contractor to build the building and price it out. And we go to the bank and we get a loan and to help us pay for that building. And we have to put some of our own money in, which is called equity, to like a down payment, like a house, and then we can borrow. We usually, as a developer, because it helps your returns, we try to borrow as much money as we can. And then, as you build these buildings, my dad's partner, Kem Gardner, no longer partners, but he always tells the story that the goal is, the light bulb went on. He said, if I could build $1 billion worth of buildings, then I could have the tenants pay off those mortgages, and then you're left with some value, right? So the goal is that we keep them leased, keep the boxes full. So we're just building boxes, and we're trying to keep them full and keeping rent payments coming to help pay the debt service on those. So there's value. Does anyone here want to get into real estate? Ever had any exposure with real estate? Done development? What did you do?
I'm a loan closer at Zions.
A what at Zions?
A loan closer.
Loan closer. Oh, okay, great. Do you work with Flynn or any of those folks?
I'm in the small business department. So
Okay.
I'm a business engineer.
Yeah. And are you looking to stay with that, probably?
Yeah. Bigger scale.
TBD?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bigger scale probably.
Yeah. And then what are you doing?
I'm currently in the process with a partner trying to buy a medical office building. So we can kind of do the whole thing from around quickly.
Okay. Yeah. So what are you gonna do with it? Value add, like remodel it or something, or? Okay. And are you going to get third-party money from an investor, or are you doing it all with your own money? Yeah. That's great. That sounds like an exciting endeavor. So, well, and have you learned about cap rates at all as part of that? Okay. So there's some basic metrics in real estate. We can get into them. Just cap rates. If you go out and talk to any broker in commercial real estate, cap rate is basically, they'll say, oh, that's an 8% cap rate. Well, that means if you bought that building, you would get an 8% return on your money. It's kind of a basic thing that you want to know. So in the language of commercial real estate. Anyone else getting into real estate? Yeah. Somewhat?
Bird dogging,
Okay.
run over people's houses and see if they want to sell them, and then they tear the house up for remodel and then sell it, or sometimes they just basically buy old houses, improve them, and then sell them out.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can do that that's the great part about it is once you're in real estate, you realize I think that's kind of what I wanted to drive home to today is like, it's such a fun job because everywhere you go, you're kind of looking for opportunities, and there's a story behind every building, like way more. Every building is its own business, right? A standalone business. So there's usually, at the Cafe Rio I was at today over there's a lease in place with a developer, and so much of what people don't realize is like the federal government leases almost half of its real estate, so they don't own a lot of their real estate. Google, for example, leases huge amounts of real estate. So everyone thinks, oh, Google's expanding, or Qualtrics is doing a new office in Seattle. Well, that's some developer that got out there and bought the right site and then wooed them to come into that tower. It's not, but then they get the benefit of putting their sign on there, and oftentimes they'll pay for that sign. Real estate's extremely risky. It's because you have to. I'd imagine the bank might make you sign on a personal loan, and so when my dad he developed the Gateway, and I was just young in my career, but he wanted to be a pioneer, and he developed the Gateway, so he had to sign personally on like a $300 million loan with his partner. And we always joke that if that went south, then we would be moving out of the country, right? So it's extremely risky. The goal with every developer is to get their personal liability off the loan and get into a permanent loan situation. And what that means is just then the asset or the building becomes the only collateral that the bank can go after. They can't go after your car, your house, your kids, that type thing. So that's inherent in real estate. I'll just go through some of the stuff, and as I show you guys what we're kind of working on, it might trigger some questions, but one of the real fun things about like where Utah is at in its real estate cycle is we're working on projects that are bigger than any project that I think my dad could have ever imagined when he started the company. I mean, just in terms of Utah growing up, that's nothing to say about our generation. It's just that Utah is, as you know, the in-migration at 50,000 a year, or 25 and 25, is crazy. And so it's this tech bump has been amazing in terms of Draper, Lehigh, and building new buildings. We've probably built 15 of those headquarters buildings out in Draper and Lehigh for tech companies. So a little bit of background about the Boyer Company. We were started, as I mentioned, almost 50 years ago. We have about 15 million square feet of ownership of square footage in our portfolio. How big do you think Slick's footprint is? Do you have any idea, you guys? I don't know.
I used to know that, but I don't know it anymore, Nate.
I wouldn't know that either, probably. I just was kind of wondering, because it's hard to picture what square footage is. 35 million square feet is what we've developed, and then we're in about 20 states. But the majority of what we do is along the Wasatch Front, and then in Phoenix, we've done about 700,000 or 800,000 square feet of office down there. It's really blown up in the last year, 2 to 3 years. We're privately held, so a lot of real estate people you'll talk to take outside investment. We don't. My dad is a really conservative guy, and he's just plowed all the money back into new projects. And so he doesn't live an extravagant lifestyle, and as a result, it's benefited our growth because we've been able to stay well capitalized. And then we have about $500 million worth of development right now under some level of development. This just kind of outlines the different sort of departments we have within the company. We have a unique compensation structure at Boyer. So you're saying, well, how do you get paid as a project manager at Boyer? Or we call them partners at Boyer. And it's kind of neat because the way it was set up back in the day is that you can set up kind of your own company within the Boyer Company. So we're a financing engine. We approve all the deals as a management body at the Boyer Company, but we give up ownership in each new project that we do to our partners or to our project managers. So, for example, we're working with Podium. It's a tech company down in Lehigh, and we're building a new building for them. It's their second building. Well, the lead project manager or partner on that deal gets X percent, I think 10 to 15% ownership in that project as a result of him working on the project. So that benefits him from the standpoint that it gives him a long-term potential annuity. That is, if he keeps that building leased and if he works hard and making the tenant happy, that the Podium guys and girls happy, then we have a good long-term client. We have a good or a good happy tenant long term. So he sees cash flow and can kind of create his own net worth within the company. We obviously have to put a lot of money, like on a new building, it might be $4 to $5 million worth of equity in a new project, and we get that money back before our partners or our project managers see any cash flow. So we're set up where we're lean and mean in terms of we pay a low salary, but then we give a good potential bonus or ownership on top of that. So little bit like I said, we hire local architectures, that's the A, and E is the engineers and contractors. We do that if we're doing a project out of town, and then we just fly to the project. So that keeps good boots on the ground, local eyes and ears on the ground. We're not typically a merchant developer. That just means merchant developer means you build it and then you sell it immediately. We like to hold it. That's how you make real money in long term in real estate. People would question you on that right now because there is so much money coming into Utah to buy stuff. California, so we're selling a lot of stuff right now, and mainly just because we think it's an opportune time and it may make sense to get out on some things because pricing is so over the top. An example of that is we built. I'll show you the this building out in that we started out in the northwest quadrant, and once we got into it, we were halfway through construction, and this company came along. I mean, you can see how there's about a 550,000 square foot warehouse, and we were about this stage of construction, and someone came in from California and said, we want to buy that. And we did the math, and we said, we don't have a tenant to occupy it, to pay the rent, right? So it's just a speculative development that we were doing. But what we were going to make selling it with a tenant in there was the same as what we could sell it to them, what their offer was. So we just said, it doesn't make sense, we'll get out of the way, and we sold it to them. And now see off in the distance, that's Amazon right there. And the Amazon Web Services, the cloud guys came in and they took, after we sold it to them, they took the whole building. So it worked out for them and it worked out for us. But that's just, like I say, just out of town money, just coming in looking for, because they still see our market as cheap.
So did Amazon buy it or another developer?
Another developer, and then they got lucky and Amazon came along. Yeah. Amazon is just crazy. I mean, it is like, they're doing 5 deals that are in our market, and they're just these little last mile delivery centers. And you should see their site plan. I could pull it up, but it's got like 1,000 or 1,100 parking stalls for their vans, their delivery vans, and they're putting electrical chargers at every, all throughout these parking lots. So they're spending a ton of money, and they're buying, if you've ever heard of Rivian, the new electric car, it's like a Tesla competitor that's coming. So they've just made a big order to do all electric vans. And so as a result, all their new facilities are electric, electric powered cars. But they're expanding, they gave their directive as of November to go find another 10 million square feet in the western United States. I mean, and they just can't sign leases fast enough. So you kind of wonder how that's all going to end. But the developers we're looking at a few of the projects right now. So it's a great thing for developers. Back to the presentation here, just a little bit more about our company, and then I just want to show you guys some videos and see what questions you guys have. The nice thing is we're small. We don't have a lot of red tape. It's kind of a 4 or 5 person. I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's my dad who makes the decisions because we're writing checks with his money, and so that we all jibber jabber on our Monday meetings about what we think should happen, and then we just let him chime in, and he usually has the last word. And that'll change, and we're working on kind of we do have a board of directors we've set up with family members and some outside people as well. So you do have to do that to make a bank understand that a company lives beyond, just a person, a key man or a key woman dying. So just a little bit of kind of going through some of the stuff that we do. The fun part about my job is, like, on Friday, we got to take this company, Weave, they're a tech company down in Lehigh, up to Nike's campus. So we got, Oakland has a private plane they offered and took us all up, and we got to walk around their campus to get inspiration for this new headquarters we're building for these guys. And, it was a little bit silly because you're going into Nike's Michael Jordan building and you're looking at pictures of his Jordans, and it's just like, and then you're looking at these waterfalls in the new LeBron building, and you're looking at, the gyms. I mean, there's multiple gyms that you go into that just all glass, and we're thinking, oh man, we can't afford any of this in your building, but you guys, the inspiration was fun to talk through, right? It was a good exercise. They're about $1 billion company, and I don't know what Nike is, but it's a lot more than that. And so it is fun though to because location decisions in real estate are oftentimes, they're going to sit with the key person at the C-suite. And so we don't really market to the masses our business. We're out trying to get in front of those CEOs or that are making, or founders that are making decisions on where their next move is going to be. And oftentimes they don't think about it until they need more space. So fun to work with this company. I will say a little bit of our concern right now, and why we are selling some stuff, is because between this and Podium, I'll show you there. That's the first building. This is a live feed from our cameras out there on site. This is the first building for Podium we did, and then this is the second building we're doing for Podium. And these companies, like, we met with the founders when they came to the site, and they're like, 10 years younger than I, and I'm 38, and so I'm like, man, what did I do wrong with my life? But they're right out of BYU, and they are worth hundreds of millions of dollars already, at least on paper. We'll see. And one of our concerns is just credit. Like, they're doing $100+ million in revenue, and everything looks rosy today. But if any of you have read some of the SoftBank, like WeWork story, where they were worth billions of dollars, and suddenly they weren't. They had tons of liabilities. We worry about these tech companies being able to pay our rent, because a lot of our rent checks come via probably a venture capitalist investing in these companies and just keeping that spigot on. And so that's a little bit nerve-wracking. And the banks oftentimes really scrutinize that, but they go off of, okay, it's good real estate. We like, this building's on I-15, so it's probably going to be okay if they go out of business. And we have a good balance sheet to guarantee off of, so they get comfortable with that as well. This is, speaking of tech companies, this is Divvy. If you've ever seen their billboards along I-15, this is so you got Bangor over on the left here, and I-15 over on, right there. You can see the cars coming down I-15. Basically, they came in and they just got a $250 million round of, I think, Series C. They said we need 4 floors. And then while we were building the building, they said, oh, actually we need the whole building. So again, tech company growing like crazy, and you just hope that their business continues to skyrocket, like it has been. Just to give you an idea, I mean, soup to nuts, we have to market these things. We buy a raw site, but we have to give people we have to give people the vision of what it can become. So I'll just show you, we have to pay 10 or so grand to get a Bowen Studios downtown to do these videos to market each project, and thought this might be interesting. We show the location kind of as an aerial, and then we drill down on major arteries like Bangor and I-15 and where the front runner is, and then we dive right into kind of a flyover. These are superimposed buildings. You have the beautiful prison out in the background. but you have to give people the vision of, okay, this is where your HQ your headquarters could go right on the freeway here. This is all photorealistic. Just a sea of parking. You gotta love that. But we threw this in front of Lucid to try to get them to come, right on I-15, and ended up having dealer track here, and then Divvy took this building. Obviously, we hadn't built them yet, but it gives people, they have to have a picture or video to be able to envision what we're marketing. A little bit more of what we're working on. I just wanted to kind of show you guys that it is with construction's very slow in terms of technology, but it is fun to see some of the technology that we do have now. We can see most of our projects throughout the country just on a screen. So, and it's also kind of cool to see that they have a time lapse on these. So you can see from the get-go when we build these things, how it's basically, this is a tilt concrete building where the walls just pop up. So they pour them, see these slabs right here on the left. Those are concrete slabs, and they actually put forms down on the dirt, and they form these walls, and they let the concrete set, and then suddenly one day they just lift up the wall, and suddenly it's there, and they have a steel structure in between that holds them up. And that's about 15% cheaper to build that way. And you get a lot of scrutiny from, this is Health Equity. This is the third building we've done for them up in Draper, and so there's 2 more buildings behind. And it's not real pretty. Not my favorite look, but again, back to that cost is an issue right now. They had a lease rate, what they could pay, and we said, well, we can build you a building, but it's going to be concrete tilt. And if the average Joe looks at that, they're probably not going to know the difference. Just if you look at, I'll just show you on our website, the other one that was kind of they've done it in other markets a lot, this concrete tilt, but it was kind of a eye-opener for people when we did it at Entrada. If you guys have ever seen this building, it kind of is like up on the freeway, in Lehigh. And this is concrete tilts as well. And the concern usually is, well, geez, I'm not going to be able to get enough glass, because the structure really is kind of all held in this concrete stuff around the windows. But we figured out a way. You can see this building has plenty of glass on it. This is kind of a fun one. They added a rooftop garden up there because they overlook Lehigh, and it's super windy. You almost blow off when you're up there, but it's pretty cool. They did some cool stuff they brought this bus into the lobby, and we have a huge gym. I mean, amenities, it's kind of been the arms race on amenities with these tech companies, because it's like a towel service gym at all these. And I was at Qualtrics this morning down in Provo, and we're helping them out with their second phase of their headquarters, because they're having trouble on budget. And it's all about amenities, right? It's what can we do for the employees to keep them on site. Full cafeteria and gym, and they've got the dogs and the cereal and everything. It's a true tech scene. I said, how many dogs do we have in here? It's like crazy. One of the cool things they're barking during your meeting. One of the cool things is this big LED screen behind their receptionist that they did, and the goal was to try to be able to see that from I-15, just kind of the lighting from I-15 shining down there. So anyway, that's the tilt, like I was saying. This is down in Phoenix. We just finished this building. Again, a time lapse. But you can see that we oftentimes, this one, we had to dig a huge hole and remediate, take it down about 30 feet, dig all the dirt out, because it was an old landfill, and make sure you find like cars and junk, and then get it out. And the city helped it. Tempe City gave it, not gave it to us, but they said your land cost is going to be paying for that remediation. So we went in and did that, and that took a bunch of money, about $30 a square foot, just to bring it up. And then Becton Dickinson, a big medical group, took that building, and this is on a major freeway, the 202, and then that's a parking garage next to it, and we'll build more buildings around that. But kind of fun to see the time lapse on that. That's another one, and then I'll just show you how snow can get in your way. This is up at Myriad Genetics. We're doing their 6th building for them, and this isn't. But you can see, you have to be the big bad guy tearing out these trees. You'll watch how beautiful those trees are, and then they all have to come down, and we there they go. And then, as you skip ahead, because this one's too long, we're doing a big parking garage and building up there, and it's the dynamics of working with the University of Utah and a ton of eyeballs watching this out there. And then you've got a lab building next door that if anything moves, you have to, so you're working in a tight site. If anything moves, you've got issues, right? Or if you hit a power line in the ground, then you've got issues because you've just shut down their research. So this one's, there comes the snow. We did Skull Candy's building up in Park City, and you have to think about these things where we spent about $500,000 just on snow removal during the construction process, and it really busted the budget, right? Because I could show you that time lapse, but it's just basically just people shoveling for the whole construction period. But a neat building, turned out to be great. Then you got the boring stuff like storage facilities this one's out in, we've got 5 storage facilities, one going in Portland, Maine, one in New Bedford, Mass. That's Portland, Maine right now. Warminster, Pennsylvania, and then we're doing one in Anchorage, Alaska, and industrial buildings in Boise, Idaho. This is one up in Boise. Looks like they got some snow. But they haven't tilted walls yet, but this is an industrial deal. So right now, if you look at, in terms of the hottest real estate products right now, it's industrial and apartments. And our bread and butter is office. So we do a ton of office. And so we're trying to shift a little bit towards industrial and apartments because we've had the problem with office is you'll get a company like let's take, for example, this one's take Tesla's building right here, right? You'll get Tesla moving into that building out in Draper, and I'll just show you the fly around. So this is their one in Draper, and they'll sign a 12-year lease, and they'll pay rent that whole 12 years, but at the end of this 12 years, do you think you get another company that comes in and wants to live in that exact space and have it the exact way that Tesla had it? No, not at all. So what do you have to do you think? What? Got it. And that can cost up to $50 to $60 a square foot, sometimes $70 a square foot of new investment. So that kills, you have to start saving up money towards the end of their lease which, think about an apartment. What do you guys do on an apartment or a storage facility when a tenant leaves? Yeah, you might put some carpet, you might put some paint. What about a storage facility? You get your little broom out, turn off the lights, turn them on again, right? So that's pretty compelling from a simplicity standpoint. Give you an example. This is a building out in South Jordan. To that point on office being tough, we've had this lease for 15 years to Avanti. They decide they're going to move out and go build a new building on I-15, and good looking building, but it's tucked back from I-15. So you're kind of like, well, what do we do? Not a lot of interest in that building. So you're stuck with an empty building that you're going to have to plow again a bunch of money into. So we're selling it now for basically what we're into it. I mean, we're hoping to get out. And so we've had it for 15 years, paid down the mortgage, but that's the problem with office is once it's empty, it's not worth. Once you don't have that tenant in place and that cash flow, who's from the tenant, then you're really up a creek pretty quickly. The tenant is key in our business. They drive the deal where they want to be because they're the ones that make it feasible, right? So let's just do some quick math. Like if you have, let's take an example here. So has anyone heard of Solution Reach or down in Lehigh? This is their building. They're 150,000 square feet, and they all start to look the same after a while because they're all rectangular boxes. But that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-story building, right? That's 150,000 square feet. So let's just do the math on that. What that would sell for, okay, and what that would cost. So it's 150,000 square feet, and they pay $20 a square foot a year. So we get $3 million in rent for that building. And then, our mortgage is about $2 million roughly. So it's good while you have about $1 million of cash flow while it's good. We spent 150,000 square feet times $225 a square foot. So we spent $33,750,000 to build that building. So what do you think it's worth? How do you calculate what that baby's worth, what that Solution Reach building is worth? I'm trying to make the case for why you would sell, why we would be doing this business, and why some people are merchant developers and sell. Okay. Do you know, you were talking about cap rates earlier. Do you remember how you would calculate this?
In the building, so it's just the percentage of the total worth of the building paid out per year is the cap rate.
Yeah, so you would take what they pay in rent, so which we said was $3 million, and you would divide that. Remember our cost was $33 million or $34 million roughly. You divide that by, you could sell it for what cap rate? Probably in office right now. This changes depending on the market. Probably sell it for a 7 cap. So there's your what your value is. It says probably can't read that, $42 or $43 million. So your spread is about what? $10 million is what you're building these for. You're creating that profit when you build it, but you're taking all kinds of risk, right? So everyone's like, oh, that sounds like an easy business. You're taking all kinds of risk because costs can go out of whack on something like this. This tenant has contracted a lot within the building. They've subleased, so they started with all 5 floors, and then they've tightened up their business, their costs, and so you're worried about them going out of business. Not specific to Solution Reach, but they have contracted within the building, so just generally. And also, when they're done with the lease, again, you have basically the value of your sticks and bricks is what people will pay you on this. So there is a compelling case to building these and selling them and just paying the taxes, even though you pay heavy taxes. So anyway, what questions do you guys have? I'm kind of done, and yeah.
Your relationship with your partners is kind of like risk management for them, because you provide the resources for them to do their projects, and it kind of limits their liability and their risk factor.
Yeah, so you're asking like, what's our relationship with our partners on that stuff?
So basically, you finance whatever project they want to do, because if they did that on their own, obviously there'd be a lot riding on it.
Yeah, so that's the compelling case to be part of, why we add value as a Boyer company. We can capitalize their projects. We don't approve every project they bring in, obviously, but if it's a $10 million project and we have to put $2 million of equity in, we loan that into the project at 6%, a 6% rate, and we get paid back that. So we get $120,000 a year paid back, plus any principal we can get back, and then they start seeing cash flow. But they don't have any personal liability, if that's what you're asking. So it is a real benefit. That means, as a result, we have to really like the project to approve spending the money on it. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, you seem to use like a lot of glass in a lot of your constructions. Like, how much do you think it costs to like wash all the windows on, say, like the 101 tower? Like, how much do you think people spend to make sure it looks like really clean?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we wash our windows I want to say twice a year, but it might be quarterly. But I don't know the exact cost to wash. I know Metropolitan Window Washing does a lot of our cleaning. And then they just passed a law where they're getting extra stringent about, a lot of the window washers they just tie off on mechanical equipment up on top. And now they're actually on these old buildings that don't have tie-offs, because it does cost money to put those in. We've had to go put them in recently on a lot of our buildings. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question, because we're always thinking, I have a lot of family members, obviously, and they're always thinking about what are ancillary businesses to real estate, right? So could I do the trash collection for these buildings? Could I do the snow removal? Could I do the window washing? I have one brother-in-law that does telecom, and he provides telecom to a lot of them and rides. So CenturyLink and Comcast have to ride his lines into a lot of the buildings. So, yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a project that you're particularly proud of?
I mean, this is going to sound really like capitalistic of me, but it's like the ones that make money are the ones that you're proud of, because they pay you back, right? But I would say this one downtown is my dad's favorite for sure, the Copper Top, because it's just iconic. Like I said, we did the Gateway. That got us on the map. It wasn't one that we made money on. I mean, in fact, retail, just a little sidebar on retail, it is so hard. High-end retail is so hard to develop. I mean, when you looked at Gateway and you saw City Creek come along and take 20 plus tenants out of our project and really rate it and take them down to Main Street, that killed that project. Luckily, we had gotten out in 2007 and sold it to a REIT, a real estate investment trust. But it's like a house of cards, high-end retail, because if, Ann Taylor in its lease has that they don't have to pay full rent if White House Black Market or Chico's goes away. And then Apple doesn't have to, and then all these other, they all have co-tenancy clauses is what they're called in their leases. So like Apple doesn't, they don't have to pay rent unless, if at the time it was Galleons, but then Dick's Sporting Goods was one of the anchors there. So it's like if you have a sales glitch in your shopping center, then a lot of these tenants like Barnes and Noble, they went to percentage rent. So they were paying full rent, and then suddenly when other tenants left, like Office Depot, Old Navy, they bailed on the center, they could go to a percentage rent where they just paid a percentage of sales, and that's not what you like as a landlord. So back to your question, I think Skull Candy is probably one of my favorite. It's just a small 30 or 40,000 square foot building, but it's one of the coolest. It kind of sits on its own, It didn't make us any money though. We really just got out like break even, because it was so expensive, the glass pattern and everything, and once we got in, the city was really hard to deal with and made us use a lot more land and over design the thing. Other questions you guys have? Yeah.
So I currently work for a subcontractor.
Uh-huh. a sub to a GC, trying to get to a GC. I do real estate. Oh, okay. Yeah. I would say tying up the right pieces of dirt, obviously, like kind of knowing where a good piece of land is, because the money will follow, like good opportunities, because people always come to Boyer Company and say, well, how could I get a job, or how could I get into this? We don't have high head count. We have 120 people at Boyer, but only about 20 or 30 of those are actually doing projects. So we scale up a lot because we hire a third-party GC, general contractors, and A&E and all that. So I would say go find the right piece of dirt, and then also, find a company that is looking for new sites and that you can run with and find out where they want to be. And if you can anyone can put land under contract. You just go out and get that boilerplate Rep C, the real estate purchase contract off the website, and you go give it to a seller and say, I'll pay you this. And then you can lock up a contract on a piece of land for sometimes up to 6 months if you put some earnest money down. You know what I mean? So that's what I would do, and then I would go shop that opportunity to some people that have some development capital, and I would say, I want 30% of this deal. I'll build it. I have a company that wants to be here, and I'll sign the contract to you. I don't know if that answers your question, but kind of just like get out in front of some opportunities, because we don't have enough days or hours in the day to find all the right opportunities. So when people do bring us opportunities, then we love capitalizing them, and we'll give them a good ownership in the building.
We're at time.
Yeah.
Any last questions?
Yeah.
What's your hope for return as far as timeline on an investment like this?
What do you mean, return on time?
You hope you're making money back in 5 years?
Oh, yeah, good question. Yeah. So, so I'll just show you really fast. This is like one of our, we don't do really high-end like pro formas, but I'll just, budgets and stuff, but I'll just show you. This is for Weave's building, right? So it's a $48 million building. Right here you can see that, this is probably too small, but up in that right-hand corner you see a $48 million building. And then you see what they have to pay in rent. So that's, anyway, this is a return on all the costs. We get 8.48%. And then this is, to your point, your question, how many years does it take to pay it off? 5.34 years to get our money out of the project. So we have to, every year we get some out, and then after that, our money's back. But then you got to remember it's a 10-year lease. So you got like 3 years in there until you got to start holding back money, because you got to pay for the next guy to fit out of his space. Yeah. So thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate you listening to me.